How have things been progressing since you first started on this journey of becoming a practitioner? If you could just walk our listeners through what what compelled you, like what inspired you to become a practitioner, and how have things been progressing since you began?
Well, when I look back at it, there was one line in Nelson's book that was, "Banking is the most important business in the world."
Mm.
And my career path has changed quite a bit. So we don't need to, well, if you want, we can dig into the background, but it's went here, 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 here. And then once I read that book, what Nelson wrote, it resonated with me. And I was in a different field at the time. And I read that line, it changed my life because this process has definitely changed my life and
Mhm.
given me a ton of control of my money, being able to do whatever I want with it on my own terms. And that's what I loved about it. But at the time, I wasn't getting the coaching that I wanted. It was just a product. And I kept on asking my advisor, "Hey, can you help me understand, help me with this?" But it sounded like it was just banging it against the wall. And I said, I have to figure a way so I can help other people out so they understand this. I share this with my family and friends, but I needed to get the skill set to learn how to understand this concept better and help people out. And that's when I reached out to you, Jason. I think I tried to find your email on the website and I just kind of did a stab in the dark. Let's do these two combinations together and send it out. And yeah, I was super surprised. You responded to me right away within 2 days. And that was how this journey began. And well, it was because of all the content you had on YouTube that really attracted me because I was learning this stuff from a lot of the US stuff at the time. This
Right.
was in 2017 was when I started learning. And there's a ton of US. There's very rare that I could find a Canadian nugget that I could learn from. Once you guys came in, it just blew my mind how much education I was learning from you guys that you weren't my advisors, but I was learning a ton. And that started me down that path. It's like, these are, if I want to practice this, I had decided that I wanted to get into this career to change people's lives because I found this is the only thing. This is where you start, and then you can do everything else. But this is the foundation. And I
Uh,
wanted to find the best in Canada. And that's
that's
why I
really
reached out to you,
powerful.
Jason.
That is really powerful. And what came up for me as a question as I was hearing you share this, because if you were to distinguish, so if somebody asked you, okay, what is the difference between having a contract somewhere, because you have to be licensed somewhere. You can't operate as a life licensed advisor without holding your license somewhere. So, what is the difference between having a contract somewhere versus having a platform at Ascendant?
Oh, this is huge. This is game changer, Jason. This being a part, reading a lot of books about finance and growth and everything else like that. The one thing that always comes back to is who you surround yourself with.
Mm.
And if you have a contract, that's all you have, right? It's just that contract. But a platform and the people around, they're gonna push you, make you stronger and better. That's that's what this is. And so I mean, your door is always open. I can always get a hold of you and say, "Hey Jason, I have an idea or I can help." Same thing with Richard. The team here is amazing. The best company I've ever worked with, hands down.
Oh, it's humbling. Thank you, Quan. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm curious, Quan, because you find yourself in a position, you're teaching people, you're coaching other people how to implement this process. You're also implementing it in your own life, you and your wife, and your family, and you live out in a remote area. You're kind of out by a lake, and you're out in. I'm not quite in the boonies, but you're not really near town. So you're operating really an online business from home. Now, the first few months that you were going at this, you were working in a space that maybe wasn't the most conducive to work. Meanwhile, we're looking at you now. You've got your own office that you've built with your own two hands, essentially, on this separate building on your property. So, I'd love to know a little bit about the journey of making the decision to get started, working kind of from home, doing it in a way where you're able to meet people frequently using, of course, Zoom, internet, that kind of technology. And what's different about this than things that you've done in the past in your life, just from a day-to-day operational standpoint?
Hmm. Thanks for that question, Richard. And that question drives down to, I think one of my mentors at one time said, there should be one word that drives you, that helps direct you into every decision that you make. And my word is freedom. So when I left when I left my previous career, it was a very good career. It baffled people why I would leave that career to go sell life insurance, but that's they didn't fully understand what I was doing. I'm not selling life insurance. Well, I am, but it's beyond that, right? And you guys understand. So, um, yeah, to leave a very good career and to basically start at nothing again. I mean, to build that up. And that was the discussion I had with my wife. And I said, there's the freedom, the same thing with what Dan Sullivan says, freedom of time, freedom of money, to be able to follow what my passion is. And that's, like you said, Richard, that's why I don't mind. Not I don't mind. I love building things with my hands. At first it was challenging because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And that's where having a team of people that I can lean on to really get me up to speed. You guys have compressed, and what Ascendant has done is compress that learning curve. It's a lot. So I'm just warning people, it's a lot to take. But if you love hard work and you love what you do, you're gonna get there. And Ascendant just makes it faster.
Wow, that's amazing. And I would ask you if you feel that that translates to a client experience too, right? Because you're educating people, you're helping them to rethink their thinking. And so what would be, I guess, a common misconception that you help people overcome regarding the infinite banking concept? Is there anything that you find is a bit of a pattern in the interactions that you're having with prospective clients?
Yeah, a lot of there's a couple things that come to mind when but same thing as when I first started learning about this concept. First thing is that it sounds too good to be true. So that seems to be, and that for the people that start doing the research, then they realize, and same thing as me, it's like there's a lot of benefits. What is the biggest downside? So that's what a lot of people ask me. And then the other question is, well, they're always thinking, oh, I need to have a big wad of cash or something to do this with. And in my journey in learning about this and being a part of the team, is that a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I need money to kickstart this program," but you can do it with what you have. Like, you don't have to work any harder. You don't have to change your cash flow. You just have to start prioritizing and really focusing in on what is it that you truly want and desire for your future. And if you're willing to maybe make some sacrifices for that future, that's what this process is about, thinking long range.
That takes me, Rich, to page 65 of Nelson's book. Quan, you said that so perfectly. We were speaking to Tehran earlier, just a half hour ago, and we had asked Tehran, like, what comes up for you in terms of maybe your favorite part of Nelson's book, something that you just you find yourself gravitating to again and again and again. And what you just brought up is something that Nelson articulated. It all begins with desire because you're already prioritizing where you're allocating 100% of your financial resources right now. And so all this requires is a shift in priorities, exactly the way you described. Thanks for that reminder. That's for those of you who haven't read, or maybe you have, you just haven't read it in a while. Nelson's book titled Becoming Your Own Banker. This is my own copy. It's now aged just about 17 years. And what an incredible read. Takes you a few hours to get through it, but it'll change your life. I can assure you of that.
Well, that leads me, Quan, to just thinking about again your experience. There's one thing coming apart the team, the organization, but if we were to rewind the tape a little bit further than that, what was the point where Nelson's book, Nelson's message, even came into the awareness field for you?
Mm.
I think initially when I was learning about this concept, I was able to find a PDF version of the book. And so it was free. So it's like, oh, let's learn about this. I don't have to pay the 30 bucks or whatever, right? And as I was reading this, it was Nelson's authenticity in the writing. I never met Nelson. Had I known, I should have called him back in 2017 when I was still learning this stuff, because I feel like He's somebody who would pick up the phone and have a conversation with me, and I kind of kicked myself in the butt for not doing that. So, yeah, just Nelson's on authenticity, and you could see from the words in the book how much he cares about people and how much he wants everybody to succeed by using this system. And that's I can't really pinpoint what it was, but it was just the whole book, the way that it was written to help me understand how money actually works in our economy and how to make it work for you. That was the biggest thing that said. And in the end, it was kind of a leap of faith because I told my wife, I said, okay, this thing sounds cool. It sounds interesting. It has all these attributes, but what are the potholes that I have to be afraid of? And I said, you know what? We're saving money in a bank right now anyway. So why don't we save money inside this system, but we also have a death benefit, which is the cherry on top. That was the tipping point for me. I said, let's do it. And then just to share, after we did that, I was chatting with my wife and I said, hey, Sarah, we need to save until it hurts. So let's start putting in as much money as we can into these policies to get them to grow because we're looking 10, 20 years down the road. We were solving for her retirement at the time, and she was 26. And we're solving for her retirement at 45. Or, I mean, the option of passive income. It doesn't mean that she's going to stop working, but we'll have passive income at that time if we wanted to.
And that creates freedom of time,
Exactly.
and it creates freedom of purpose, and it creates freedom of relationship and freedom of money. And so building passive income is something that, I mean, I would wholeheartedly encourage people to begin as soon as they can possibly do that. I mean, I've already got custodial accounts open for my kids, and they're earning money working and contributing so that they can already begin to go down that path of generating passive income. And so good for you for doing that and for placing an emphasis on that because the fact is most people don't until they reach a stage in their life where they have to really hurry. It's a very rapid activity. It's like, oh my goodness, I need this much passive income. I've got to really get after it. And I've only got a 12, 14-year window to make that an achievable reality versus what you just described. I think it's awesome.